So during the Lenten season, every Sunday, I share the message on the theme of the way of Lent. And this is our third Sunday and third message on that theme. And since this is second Sunday of the month, I will share the words in English. We started from in Philippi, Caesarea Philippi, Caesar Philippi, where first time Jesus revealed his upcoming journey to Jerusalem. According to Matthew, it says that finally, in that time, Jesus spoke about his journey to Jerusalem, and particularly what's going to happen when he get there. And starting from Caesar Philippi, Caesarea Philippi, last Sunday, Jesus went up to the Mount of Figuration, 변화산. So there when disciples witnessed this transfiguration of Jesus into glorious figure with all the white, the holy figure, with two other biblical figure, Moses and Elijah. Symbolically, after that glorious scene, they went down to the world, to the town, where still there's a sickness, where there is a conflict, where there is a powerless event are happening around the sickness of boy. Well, today, on the way to Jerusalem, he several times reminded disciples about, again, his journey to Jerusalem. Well, verse 17 today, this is actually, we skipped the earlier one. This is the third time Jesus talking about what's going to happen in Jerusalem when he get there. Verse 17, it says, now as Jesus was going up to Jerusalem. So if you remember the Caesarea Philippi is kind of northern area, north of Galilee Lake. Galilean region is where most Jesus' disciples were living, and also it was Jesus' hometown of Nazareth. So most time, Jesus' ministry was happening around this Galilean area. But Caesarea Philippi was more like north between this Sea of Galilee and Mount Hermon. And then after that, he came down to Galilean area again. And there are so many miraculous works that Jesus done, healing the blind man. And there are so many important Jesus sermons, particularly expressed in Matthew, all the parables about kingdom of God. But from there, he just slowly coming down toward the south to Jerusalem. It take probably maybe more than 6 months. I mean, of course, you can walk fast. You can just go to the Jerusalem. But in between, Jesus took different towns, and Jesus went to Jerusalem for different seasons of feast. So he was a little back and forth, but eventually he was slowly going down to Jerusalem. Here today's Matthew 20s, it doesn't specify the location, the town name. It just say that, verse 17, as Jesus was going up to Jerusalem, he took the 12 disciples aside and said to them. Well, Korean verse it says that 예루살렘으로 올라가시려 하실 때에 12 제자를 따로 데리시고 길에서 이르시되. So on the way to Jerusalem. So somewhere toward the direction is to Jerusalem. But this is very symbolic. On the way to Jerusalem. On the way to Jerusalem. So we are talking about the way of Lent. The way of Lent is way to Jerusalem. And our life is every time we are on the way to somewhere. Our life is keep moving. Well, whether we live in the same town, whether we live in same setting, but actually every day we are some point of on the way. Because yesterday of you is different than today's you. We are on the move. We are on the way. And here, Jesus is reminding his disciples about this journey to Jerusalem. And this is same to us, that where are we headed? Where we are. As a disciples, as a churches, Jesus is reminding through these verses. So today I'm going to share 3 things. Where are they going? Where are we going? Second, why are we going? Why are they going? And third, how are we going? How are they going? 어디로 가는가? 왜 가는가? 어떻게 가는가? Well, of course, the first question is very obvious. Where are we going? Where are they going? They are going to Jerusalem. Then what's the Jerusalem? Where is the Jerusalem? Jerusalem is, of course, is capital city. At that time, there was no capital city, but because of the location of David's palace, and most of all, because of the location of temple, Jerusalem there are 2 by this time. And also in Jerusalem, there is also this governor of Romans reside. So by this time, Jerusalem has these 2 very vivid images. And maybe these 2 images are contrast to each other. First image of Jerusalem is, this is a very holy city. Because there is a temple, Jerusalem 성전. So temple means God's promise. The people of Jews, people of Israelites, they were actually centered by temples through the 100 years. Because there is a promise of God. When King Solomon built these temples, and then when this temple completely destroyed by Babylonians, they came back and they rebuilt the temple. Even before they rebuilt their whole Jerusalem towns. Because the temple is the symbol of God's presence among this community. In temple, sacrifice is offered. In temple, all the rituals are being done. And by doing that, they know who they are. God's forgiveness will be there. God's purification will be there. Their life as a community, as an individual, as a family will be renewed by going into temple every special feast or any special occasions. So temple is holy place. So Jerusalem is holy city. There's a priest. But by this time, Jerusalem also shows very opposite side of images, which is very secular city. Because Jerusalem was so important in the life of whole this community. That means all over the world, the Jewish people have to come to this temple area, this Jerusalem. When so many people come together, that means there's always booming of economy. When people all over the world, they gather, they need place to stay. They need a place to eat. They need to buy sacrificed animals to offer for the rituals, the rite. And there should be some kind of order of all these happenings, or all the very holistic, very holy, important rituals to happen. There should be some kind of order, authority to put everything in practice. That means there is actually strong power in this Jerusalem system. So ironically, Jerusalem is very, very God's domaining, different world, different order world, different imagination they are seeing happening. Why? Because they worship God there. There's all the sacrifice happening. Everything is very, in other words, things. But at the same time, very worldly things has to support this system. That's why Roman troops always staying there. Why? This is very dangerous place. People gather together. So they have to show their power in Jerusalem. We are in power. We are in control of this area. That means even priests, although they are representing this this godly order, this sacred order, in order to be a powerful, influential, functioning priest, they have to work well with Roman troops, Roman emperors. So by this time, so many years, who get the high priest job? Well, it's not really sacred work. It's who is more close to powerful generals. So it's irony. Jerusalem is very much holy, sacred, that you can see work of God, you can see the glory of God, but at the same time, because of that, there's a huge secular systems and secular powerful things are actually being witnessed, being working obviously. And here, when Jesus said, we go to Jerusalem, it brought different response, different reactions, depending on how they see Jerusalem. Well, so they are going to Jerusalem, but there are two different images of Jerusalem. Then second, why are they going? Why are we going in Jerusalem? Well, Jesus said, see, we are going to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man, verse 18, will be betrayed. The chief priest and the teachers of the law, they will condemn him to death and will turn him over to the Gentiles to be mocked and flogged and crucified. On the third day, he will be raised to life. So for Jesus and this group of Jesus crowd, there are crowd groups. When Jesus moved around, they are followers of Jesus, inner circle of 12 disciples, but there's outer circles of following Jesus, and even this greater circle, which is just crowd. So this ROB crowd, probably they are thinking many different things that they are headed to Jerusalem. For Jesus was obvious, he's very plainly, very clearly explained that we are going up to Jerusalem. From there, I'll be handed over, I'll be betrayed, I'll be delivered to high priest, chief priest, and the teachers of the law. Well, in their local area, in the midst of the previous places, Jesus' authority, whether while he was teaching, whether while he was preaching, whether he was healing the sick. Of course, there's oppositions from the powers already there, like religious powers, like teachers of the law, or other powers. Well, Jesus was brave enough criticizing them and teaching them how they misunderstood the words. But here, Jesus himself, in a way, showing his weakness, his cowardness, he's saying that I'll be delivered to these hands of the teachers of the law. And the worst is that not only I'll be delivered, I'll be betrayed to the teachers of the law and chief priest. The worst thing is that even they hand me over, hand the Son of Man to these Gentiles, Roman authorities. What a non-brave, what a coward. No 배짱. He's saying that I'll be that person. Now we are going into this place that we are miserably lose the fight. I don't know what do you expect from our previous works, but on the way, what's going to happen is, sorry, it's going to be miserable. So he's plainly talk about this suffering of Son of Man. That's the reason he's going there in Jerusalem. And probably I understand that they cannot understand, they cannot grasp, they cannot praise of Jesus' plan, right? Because he said, I'm going to get killed. I'll be betrayed. I'll be handed over. I'll be powerless. So I understand if just they see, disappointing, or fear, Maybe that part I understand. But one of the reactions of Jesus' disciples is that when Jesus shared about, I'm going to Jerusalem, I said that there are two different these images of Jerusalem by this time. And there's a family of disciples, verse 20. Then the mother of Zebedee's sons came to Jesus. The mother of Zebedee's sons. Zebedee's sons is two disciples, James and John. James and John, out of 12 disciples, there are some brothers and sisters. For example, Peter and Andrew, they are brothers. And these Zebedee's sons, James and John, they are also brothers. They appear in the Bible here and there. And most recently, last Sunday in the Mount of Figuration, there are 3 disciples who went to the place with Jesus. Other 9 disciples was remaining in the town. But this out of 3 disciples, there was this Zebedee's sons, Peter, James, and John. And this John's and James' mom, probably her name is Mary. It doesn't say here, but she came. Not only she came just herself, she came bringing her 2 sons. Where? On the way to Jerusalem. Right after Jesus just laid out what's going to happen, these horrible things. And this mom said, verse 20, kneeling down. So in Korean it says 절하며, but actually the image in the English is that kneeling down to Jesus. So it's form of worship. It's form of honoring Jesus. But by kneeling down, it's the sense of the humbleness to get a favor of Jesus, asking something very important. And this content of her request was, we know that. Her request was that showing his proud sons, his proud sons, that will follow all the way here from Galilee. Jesus asked, what do you want? Well, when you were, verse 21, in your kingdom, what is it you want? She said, grant that one of these 2 sons of mine may sit at your right and the other at your left in your kingdom. So she's asking, would you do something special for my own sons? This very special. I know they grew up. They are special. They are not like Peter. They are not like Andrew. They are not like Iscariot, Judah. They are special. Well, according to this Gospel's story, when Jesus was crucified on the cross, all disciples, out of fear, they were not there, right? They all escaped. They all fled. But there was only one disciple, which was John. And they say that John, not because he's so faithful, he followed all the way to the cross. No, probably he had a connection with some powerful people in Jerusalem. So, according to these scholars' researches, maybe this James and John's family, of course, they're fishermen, but not just small fishermen. Maybe the family owned great fishery business. Even that time, having a boat and all the things, it's not for the poor persons. So maybe to their moms, these 2 sons are really special. And that's not just for these moms. Every moms, their sons are so special. And then the disciples were there together. And mom brought them together. So all the gestures that she's showing, this kneeling down and talking about this kingdom of you, there's some kind of belief and faith that Jesus is honorable and there'll be kingdom of Jesus. When he enters Jerusalem, he's going to do something very special that none other people will never expect. Only this inner circle of us witnessed so far, those miracles, all the healings, all powerful messages, and condemning the powers that be. So she knew as a special sense of mother, special sense of woman, 아줌마의 감, 엄마의 촉, and this power of more family. Maybe she felt that threatened because Jesus picked recently 3, Peter, John, James, go to Mount of Figuration. And Peter is their most rival of their 2 sons. Seems like Peter is more talkative. Peter always stand first and always confess something big things. And mom cannot stand with this. Peter, okay, my sons have this vicious mom, and we have 2. You are just 1. So for here, at least what they saw was that Jerusalem, why they are going there? Of course, there might be some kingdoms. There might be, their Jesus will get glorified. That's good things. But eventually, what she saw is that this is opportunity for success. While Jesus is talking about suffering and death because of Jerusalem. And what she sees, and maybe these 2 disciples sees, is that we are going Jerusalem. And we know that, Pastor Jerusalem, so far we only countryside. Maybe we were locally renowned. We have some wealth. We have some foodings in our local town. But now, finally, we are going into the central place. So this opportunity for success for her own sons, for her own families. Thirdly, then also Jesus talking about how are we going there? What will be this way to Jerusalem? What should be the attitude of their disciples, of these teams, of the church? Somehow, these 2 all of a sudden disappeared in the way. And then all of a sudden, the mom showed up. And then they saw that mom is kneeling down to Jesus and say something with his 2 sons. Oh, there was this kind of suspicions rising. 저 엄마 뭐 하는 거지? 쟤들 뭐 하는 거지? What are they doing with Jesus? And it caused the split, it caused the battle, it caused quarrel, it caused some dispute. Verse 24, it says, when the other 10 heard about this, they were indignant with the 2 brothers. They got so angry. And why they are so angry? Although it didn't say, maybe they got angry because they lost the first chance to ask. And then all of a sudden they felt kind of betrayal out of their colleagues. And at the end, it's very individualistic, individuals fight to get the glory first. So think about this, they are going into Jerusalem. Jesus just mentioned about what's going to happen in Jerusalem. He'll be suffered, he'll be turned over to Gentiles. Eventually, he'll be crucified. And now there are quarrels, there are fightings over who's going to get the better position, who's going to get more recognition, who's going to get the power. And what Jesus is saying is that, verse 25, Jesus called them, these 12 disciples together, and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. So Jesus knows that how the world works. Jesus knows that why he's going to be get arrested, suffered, and will be condemned and death because of this world authority. Because they have a power and they practice their power. This is how the world works. That's how the world actually goes around. This is natural things. You are maybe thrown into like this merciless wilderness. So you have to survive with every means that you can do. Whether it's going to be giving bribe, or taking any opportunity, using your whole family background. At the end, it's just individual survival fight. That's how the world works. Jesus is actually very clearly saying that the Gentiles, Lord, Gentiles, officers, governors doing this. Not only that time, same everywhere, every civilizations, whether in the past, whether today, whether tomorrow, this is how the world will work because of the sinfulness of human being. The sin, the symptoms of the sin, the fundamental problems of man's head. And Jesus said, no, it's not. It's not for you. Verse 26. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be your slave. So how are they going to Jerusalem? How are they going to live in the world? This is so irony. By serving, you have to live in the world. Your attitude should be not to be compete and win and demolish. No. Your way of Jerusalem, your way of living in the Jerusalem is still serving, not competing. Serving, not competing. Then we can say that then we're going to lose our positions. We'll be crushed by the bad people. This is so naive. In this Boston, in America, in Korea, it's so naive. It's not realistic. You serve others. You take the sufferings. You are going where we know that you will lose your opportunity. They'd better stay in the Galilee local area so that at least in their small area they can be a powerful people. But here on the way to Jerusalem, because Jerusalem, the image is so deceiving, and there are these two parts of Jerusalem. Jesus is reminding them. Well, the world we are living now, the world we are going every day, our daily lives, the same. World is, there's some kind of sacred things, there's holy things. Why? Because God created the world. Because God so loved the world, God sent His one and only Son, John 3:16. So world, there's some kind of this good side of the world that God wanna transform. God shows what's the principle of the creation, what's the God's heart, how is the restoration. So it's the same. But of course, world has the other side, even stronger meaning, which is power will prevail. Money will be power. Your connections with other powerful people will make sure that you will have a better chance than others. So that's the same. But what Jesus says is that, no, what you see is not maybe true. Before coming here, they saw what God shows them. They heard something different that they cannot hear in Mount of Figuration. And then how's going to happen? Eventually, verse 28, Jesus said, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. Eventually, living in Jerusalem, walking into the Jerusalem, suffering, serving, everything is possible, not because we are so much committed, no, because what Jesus will be done, what Jesus have done, what Jesus is doing now, which is his life as a ransom. Because his suffering, because his death, which his disciples feared not to happen, but because of Jesus' determination to suffer, to die, now they will be redeemed. Now they will see new realities. The reality is actually how God created this world, how this world should be working, which is honoring God, honoring other people, loving each other. Everything powers will be in right orders to glorify God, to honor our weak people. And that's how possible because Jesus gave his own life for many. So we are recipient of this ransom grace that Jesus gave to us. So that now we can live same way. We will bravely walk into the Jerusalem, bravely go to our job, our workplace, bravely walk around our neighbors, but still not to fear to be losers, to get ignored. There's always these temptations that the world want to show us you're going to lose. You'll be nothing. No, it's not. What the world tell you is so foggy, so violent, it will completely ruin your souls, your life. If you're just eager for more power, you're eager for more money, you're eager to defeat, crush, trample others, then your life won't be successful. So at the end, we have to not only Jesus' invitation to where, how, and why, but eventually we accept the invitation of Jesus' death on the cross. The way of Lent is that Jesus tells us, shows us some different reality. What do you hear now? What your heart is fearful? What do you see? 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7 tells us. And I will say, we live by faith. But another translation says, we walk by faith. Walk by faith, not by sight. We walk by faith, not by sight. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? Do you see this alternate new reality that God is studied, God is doing through the work of the Christ, that Jesus is going to Jerusalem and inviting us to follow him? Let's pray.